So my name is Sydney Brouillard Coyle. My pronouns are Nay, Nem, Near, and I'm a soprano one in the choir as well as the assistant conductor. I've been part of Aeolian Pride Chorus since September 2024. So I moved to London just in June of 2024 and was looking for different ways to get involved within the local queer community, especially within kind of the music scene. So just looking things up, I found that the Aeolian Pride Chorus existed, and it just sounded like a really cool opportunity. So I went to the July concert to kind of check things out, and was excited to be able to join it in September and be a part of that. Pride Course has been absolutely amazing. It's just such a lovely, like, affirming and just joyful environment. I find that it just really gives me like energy for the week ahead, which is, with the state of the world and everything going on right now, it's just really nice to be able to just have those couple of hours of just community, that supportive environment, and just singing all of these like really meaningful and fun songs, and just being able to like be part of that community has just been absolutely wonderful. I think it's a mix of both just enjoying the music. I mean, music has always been a big part of my life. My first degree was a Bachelor of Music, and I've been playing piano since I was 6 years old. So it's a mix of the music that we do. I always love like the selections that we have, the diversity, and particularly like the queer representation that we can see in the songs. So it's a mix of that, and then of course the community that's formed. We have just this lovely like social time every kind of rehearsal. People bring snacks, which is always lovely, and it's just that chance to connect with other folks. And everybody comes from such diverse and unique backgrounds, but we're there singing, as we say, with one voice. And it's just really nice to see everybody coming and bringing who they are and where they're at, and just being able to participate and just be part of that community. It definitely gives me joy. It gives me energy. It just gives me that really like strong connection to, especially the kind of the queer community. But also, for me, the music is absolutely crucial. So I spent a year in a different city where there was just not a lot of kind of a music scene for me to tap into, and I felt like I was really missing that part of who I am. Whereas here, like, I'm able to sing, I'm able to like be assistant conductor and conduct a couple of pieces, which is just absolutely wonderful. And since music and my queerness are such an integral part of who I am, being able to combine them in the work that I do with Pride Chorus is just so affirming. Music naturally has a is a big part of my life. So I am a PhD student in gender studies, and I find that music provides a bit of kind of balance and offsets the often intense and challenging academic work that I do. So when I get tired of doing all of the readings and all the things that come with the PhD studies, I can just go practice. I can just kind of immerse myself in the music. As musicians, some one of the concepts we sometimes refer to is this idea of flow, where it's like the rest of the world kind of melts away, and you almost lose track of time and everything else because you get so immersed in the music. So, and I find that that's the case for when I go and participate in pride choruses. It's the one time that I cannot think about anything else and just be fully immersed in that type of like experience, that type of environment. So I've been singing kind of on and off for most of my life, but the first time I really got into kind of, I guess, professional singing was when I was starting my Bachelor of Music. So in Bachelor of Music, you're required to take part in one ensemble typically every term. So I studied at the University of Windsor, so we had jazz ensemble, we had university singers, and we had wind ensemble. So in the first term, I just started with wind ensemble because I played flute, and then I was chatting with the choral director, Dr. Kotovich, at this conference, and he really encouraged me to go into university singers the following term, which I was very nervous about because I had not really done much singing in a choir at that point. But he just like created this really kind of warm and affirming atmosphere that it was like, okay, let's give this a try. So I did, and I found that I just really, really enjoyed it. I obviously enjoyed the repertoire, but again, like a similar sense of that kind of community that Dr. Kotovich was able to create. So that was back in like 2019. The particularly interesting thing was just how it pushed me vocally. So I started off as a soprano too, and then the following term, when I did my kind of placement audition, Dr. Kotovich bumped me up to soprano one, which just really kind of encouraged and sort of forced me to like work on the particularly upper range, as some of the songs we were doing were rather high, and I remember auditioning for this little solo in University Singers for one of our concerts that was rather high, and when Dr. Hadovich gave me the starting note and I did it, he looked kind of surprised and impressed, and he's like, when did you get such high resonance up there? And I said, when I was put on soprano one and didn't have a choice. So it's just like singing and being part of this choir and everything just really pushed me in terms of my own like technical skill in terms of singing, but also just really getting a sense of how like those types of atmospheres and like environments of that community singing, and again that idea of one voice, really are formed. One of the things that I really appreciate about Pride Chorus, as well as my past choir with University Singers, is the way that both conductors really de-gender the choir experience. So traditional choirs, of course, are still very gendered. So the idea of like women as sopranos, altos, men as tenors, basses. Whereas what we do, especially with Pride Chorus, is everything is degendered, and we don't even do kind of an audition. It's just like wherever feels most comfortable with your voice. And then like we do offer in case folks are unsure and like want to kind of work through with myself or with Andrew, to kind of find where feels best. But most people kind of have a sense of like where feels good for their voice, and that being entirely degendered. So like some conductors in other choirs might use language of like women or men, whereas we use upper voices and lower voices. And for me, as a non-binary person who sings soprano, that's just really nice because I've never really felt kind of like dysphoric or uncomfortable with my voice. In fact, I quite like being a soprano one. I'm part of this. I'm part of the like chorus for Hunchback of Notre Dame, which we're doing later in a couple of months, and I'm a soprano one, and the parts there get quite high, and we kind of like joke with our group that nobody else wants that, whereas I'm like I love to live up in the stratosphere kind of thing, because I think just the way that it's framed within the choir environment in terms of like who does what type of voice part is so vital. And because I've had that experience with directors being like, this is not gendered, it's just like what fits within your range. I've never had that kind of experience of like dysphoria, but rather like within the choir community, almost like how we celebrate each other, especially around like solos and everything, and how we celebrate each other's like ranges and abilities and the work that we put in. It just almost gives me that sense of euphoria, I would say. That's what we do with Pride Course is obviously we have a lot of folks who are part of the community who have different backgrounds, who have different like identities and experiences, and that's just quite frankly wonderful. We have people of all ages. We have people who've lived in London their whole lives who've just recently come to London, like myself. And I think just finding that diversity of experiences has been really wonderful. And again, kind of thinking back to how the language in the choir is formed when, you know, we have that degendered language that's used, and even in terms of like dress codes, for example, you know, some traditional choirs use more gendered dress codes, whereas for us it's like quite open, you know. So similar with where you place yourself in terms of what feels comfortable for your voice, you wear what makes you feel comfortable. So I think just like those really intentional practices just really make me feel like, okay, I can actually show up as my authentic self. And then again, thinking about like the types of songs we're singing. So this season we're focusing on representation within musicals, which is just really fun to like see how that queer experience is represented for some musicals, like more explicitly. You know, we're doing a piece from Rocky Horror, which of course is a cult classic within our community, and some other that are like not necessarily specific to the queer community, but where we can still kind of see ourselves and our experiences reflected. So I think in terms of, again, like the environment, but also the repertoire and like what we're singing and how we come into that and how different pieces hold those different meanings for everybody is just really wonderful. I say that singing is just so much a part of who we are as people. It's one of the most like authentic and base forms of music that we can have. You know, there's no instruments that are required or anything. No special training necessarily. I mean, lots of people, even if they don't want to admit it, sing in the shower or, you know, when they're alone kind of thing. But it's just like it gets to the root of who we are. And moreover, I also feel like singing and music more generally has been used as a form of uniting, as a form of resistance, as a form of protest. And just recognizing those roots and how we incorporate that like idea of protest and resistance within Pride Chorus, just like really speaks to my passions around social justice and activism and everything. And I feel like that just brings me that joy and that sense of like community and solidarity. You know, I just encourage folks who might be interested or even have thought about it once to consider taking part, right? We're not, I know that some people may have had like not great experiences in choirs that are more traditional, whether that could be because of like how they're gendered, how they're structured, or you know, those kind of judgmental atmospheres. And it's definitely not that. Like, community is at the heart of what we do. And it's just so lovely to be able to like take part in that, and thinking back to that experience of flow like I was talking about, right? To just have those couple of hours every week where it's like you can set aside everything else, any like worries you have in your personal, professional life, like worries about the world, all of that, and just come and sing and be part of that community and be held in that community is just like such an absolutely wonderful experience. And we always love to expand our community and hope that you can take part in that too. My favorite line is, and nobody out there gets to define the life I meant to lead with this unruly heart of mine.